This happened way back. My daughter is 30 now. When I was 18 and in my first year of college, I got pregnant. The father joined the Navy to escape responsibility. My parents, who are strict conservatives, except when it's inconvenient, abandoned me and cut me off financially. They wanted me to have an abortion to prevent the loss of my scholarship. That's how I found myself at 18 suddenly and totally responsible for myself and my living situation with no financial or emotional support from anyone. I lived at a private dorm and was befriended by the property manager, Donna. When I told her my situation, she swooped in like a hero and helped me get a place to stay at one of the other properties she managed. I was getting evicted from the dorm. She then helped me get a job at a gift shop at one of those properties. I thought she was the most wonderful person for all of this until her true motives became clear. She wanted to adopt my baby even though I had expressed no interest in giving my baby up for adoption. After a few weeks of work, she launched a campaign to convince me I was unfit to be a mother and that my baby would be so much better off if I let Donna have it. At first, it was subtle, passive, aggressive remarks about how much money she and her husband had, how she couldn't have children herself, how she hoped she was able to adopt one day and what a wonderful life they would give their baby. But as time passed, her approach became more aggressive and direct. She was always around the shop and would even come to my apartment, ready to point out things I did or didn't do. That proved what a terrible mother I would be. She went into long rants about how awful I was for having a baby without a father, how we'd be welfare trash forever, how God brought her into my life because she was meant to have my baby. It was endless and constant for months. Sometimes I let her comments upset me and make me wonder if she was right, but in my heart, I knew that I'd be a good mother. For a while, and feeling intimidated, I let myself be bullied into, including her in baby-related events. I even let her go with me to the sonogram where I found out my baby was a girl. She was so excited for me. As I got closer to delivering, I got stronger in making clear to Donna that I was not giving up my baby. I tried to avoid Donna as much as I could, but was regularly reminded how much power she had over my living situation. I soon had coworkers telling me she was claiming that my baby's adoption was a done deal. She even told people she was decorating a nursery and buying baby girl clothes. When it became clear that she was not going to change my mind, she started threatening me with eviction from my apartment and firing me from my job. That way, I'd realize how unstable my situation was and recognize I had no business having a baby. And sure enough, I lost my job. She fired me for not wearing my shoes behind the cashier's counter at the gift shop. When I was on my feet all day, my feet would swell right out of my shoes. I'd stay behind the counter and slip off my shoes for a bit, but never in view of the customers. Still, that was reason enough, in Donna's mind, to teach me a lesson. It didn't take long after losing my job to also lose my apartment. I ended up couch, surfing, and even spent some time homeless until I got some housing assistance. In the meantime, I had gone to the EIC and complained, and they helped me mediate with the owners of the gift shop property. As a result, Donna got fired from managing that property, and I got months of back pay, some extra money for my trouble, in exchange for not full out suing them. This small cash windfall turned out to be a huge blessing that actually enabled me to survive financially until I had my baby and could get back in school. Donna firing me was the best thing that could have ever happened. I saw her years later and she was still childless. Best revenge. My daughter is now getting ready to graduate full scholarship and magna cum laude from a top law school. Turns out being raised by a single mom is not as awful as Donna thought. I have a dear friend, Shannon, fake name, in her early 60s, and as a toddler, her parents divorced and dad remarried a petty woman, Cruella, who wanted him to cut ties with Shannon. They still managed a relationship, but not as close as it should have been during her years growing up. Shannon married young and struggled a lot, but raised her 3 girls into young women who all now have families of their own, and Shannon is now a proud grandmother and great-grandmother. But back to Cruella. When Shannon was still in her 20s and had left her first husband, a cheater and criminal. For her own sanity and the safety of her and her daughters, her dad had told her to come home and he'd help her with a place to stay. Upon arrival, Cruella, she controlled finances, said she was unwelcome and on her own. Shannon figured it out, and again, the girls grew up healthy and loved. And Shannon remarried a loving man, but for 30 years, she was never allowed to visit her father for Christmas or holidays or birthdays. Cruella died this year. Shannon was invited for Christmas, and her father surprised her by letting her know that he was paying off her mortgage. It could never make up for not being then when she was younger, but it could give her some comfort now that she is retired. When they went to the bank today, she learned where the money came from. It is Cruella's life insurance payout. Cruella would roll over in grave if she knew that her life insurance went to pay off the house of the stepdaughter she wanted to deny existed for nearly her whole life. Papa, I'm sorry you have Parkinson's, but really, I'm not. 3 years ago, when I said I'd be there for you, that does not mean you can continue to be nasty to me. When the tables were turned and I was sick as a child in surgery or on medication, you were not there. But you made extra sure to remind me that you were paying for doctor's visits, antihistamines, surgery, etc. If what I'm saying is untrue, you would know how many surgeries I've been through, what each one of them was for, who the doctor was, what hospital, etc. Things parents should know. At home, you'd shout at me for losing my asthma pump when I was 9 years old and choking for breath mid-attack. As a parent, I'm not sure why you didn't keep a spare on you. When we were in Australia, you snatched away my antihistamines while I sneezed and suffered through a horrible road trip that you forced me on despite my severe motion sickness. Sometimes you told me I needed to stop acting up, and other times I needed to be strong or I needed to get on with it. It didn't end there. I've witnessed you explode with anger at the smallest thing. It didn't matter that it's normal for children to drop things, spill food, make mistakes in their homework, etc. You needed to take out your frustration on someone. Children do not realize when an adult is mistreating them, so it was very convenient. Another thing you and Mum have in common, when I went to Edinburgh University and you bought a flat there, you made sure to be extra nasty when you visited me, because I needed to be reminded I was ungrateful and all my mistakes and imperfections needed to be brought out in the open. You wanted me to sleep on the pull-out bed in the guest room despite me living there alone. You wanted me to wash dishes in cold water and not turn on the boiler. You dug through all my things and let me know that you were angry, not furious, at the multiple flavors of tea or soap that I had. You left me in that freezing flat, angry that the electric bill was so high but didn't do anything to isolate the apartment or change the heat into gas. When you berated my intelligence, drowned my will to live, and brought me to tears, you felt you'd done your job as a parent. The sheer anxiety of having you visit made me move out. Always remember that for all the shit you give me, I always got an equal amount or more from your ex-wife who guilt-tripped me into crash diets, taking diabetes medication, and multiple types of nutritional supplements because of my weight problem, which in addition to compounding the anxiety, gave me an irritable bowel. I deal with the effects of it to this day. You've never had much hand in raising me. I was raised by maids, tutors, and drivers, and by Mum. They did the hard parts of it. To add the final touch, you ruined my PhD graduation. A moment that will never come back. All you could think of was yourself. Couldn't survive without a maid for 10 days. We hadn't seen each other for the entire pandemic, over 3 years. You couldn't care less that I had to pack up my entire apartment and move to a different country in the space of a week, that I was exhausted from my exam at Sichi. You demanded that I serve you hourly, bring you Che, arrange your pillows, and other ridiculous requests because the Parkinson's you've had for 3 years suddenly takes precedence over anything else going on in anyone's life despite having compromised dexterity but near full mobility. Did you ask your son to do all these things? Hey, like you just sat around judging me. Did either of you even just do the bare minimum of leaving me in peace to pack? No, both man-children decided to have a meltdown because I drew a line, get your own tea water pillows, I need to pack. Neither of you did a single thing that a half-decent father or a brother would do at a time like that. When you saw the disappointment on my face, you shed some crocodile tears, gave me a muttered sorry, and then promptly returned to your old ways the very next day. I also noticed you tried to give a toast when my professors asked me to give one, when being awarded the degree. That moment, combined with the howl, crying in front of the entire department, encapsulates your parenting in a nutshell. Always there to take credit, but never sincerely there to support your daughter in the way she needs. You're the reason I don't go anywhere near Indian men or their families. Your biggest compliment to a woman is that she's traditional because you think women exist to serve you. I've done what I could to try and repair our relationship. This includes trying to explain to you how hurt your behavior makes me feel, promising to pay for a therapist, offering to pay you back for university, even pretending things never happened, trying to just let them go once you meet your new wife and you showed what I thought was a kinder side, on slide, to realize that it's just an act. Even getting a PhD isn't enough reason for you to treat me with decency. When I told you how your demanding behavior during that time was hurting me, you then proceeded to ignore any kind of reconciliation I suggested. Replying with one-sentence answers or the famed parents and children are not equal. All I've gotten for a lifetime of suffering with you is one lousy text with excuses about how hard your marriage was. You decided to marry and have children with her. You were not forced, and a staunch declaration that you have been a committed parent and that we didn't have to agree on everything. But when has any good thing you've given me money come without a complimentary can of worms? Paid for a lavish birthday party for me and 100 people? Yes, because you neglect me at home when I'm trying to tell you I'm absolutely miserable in school and sick all the time. Paid for my medical bills? Shout at me at home for anything and everything. Ignore me when I am sick and remind me every few weeks how ungrateful I am. Paid for university? Get your money's worth by being extra nasty, criticizing everything I do in the flat and slut-shaming for me having a boyfriend, something I noticed you did not do to my brother. And even if I worked hard, got a PhD, a top-notch job, you were there to support in public but remind me of my places in private. Want to continue to live in the delusion that you were a great parent? Fine. Then it should be acceptable for me to treat you in your sick old age the same way you treated me as a sick child. When if your money runs out, I'll give you some money for a career. If you're being mistreated in your nursing home, you need to tough it out. It's tough love. When you are choking or in pain or you shit yourself, I'll tell you to just get on with it. I'll throw in a nice birthday party and whoosh, I'm a committed daughter. Right after college, I worked in the marketing department for an NBA team, and one of the team secretaries was an obnoxious middle-aged woman, and she would sit at her desk in the lobby all day and stuff her face with snacks from the break room and was generally unpleasant to all our coworkers. Sometimes I would find my lunch that I kept in the employee fridge half-eaten or things missing from it. One day, I walked into the break room and saw her swapping her unripe green banana for my ripe banana I had packed for lunch. I never mentioned it to her and did this instead. Over the next couple weeks, I would bring about 10 extra bananas into work with me and I would duct tape them to the bottom of her desk. After about 3 weeks, her area and the entire lobby started to really smell bad from the rotten bananas. She had no idea what the smell was and it drove her absolutely insane. She would have the maintenance guys come and check the air vents, insisting something died in them. She even freaked out at the janitor, saying he didn't do a good enough job cleaning. I worked for the team for about 6 months after I placed the bananas, and she never figured it out. Fast forward 2 years, and I ran into my former supervisor from the team at a bar. We were talking, and he told me that a few months after I left, the janitor found a bunch of bananas under this secretary's desk. I filled him in on my little scheme, and we had a great laugh. The next day, I sent him a picture of me with banana in my hand. He framed it and put it in the break room, and it still hangs there to this day.